What if I told you that a dusty storage facility in Burbank, which had been sealed for more than 30 years, held the true secrets of Sammy Davis Jr.'s life? No one has ever told this story. There were cassettes that might destroy families, letters regarding his real mother, and evidence of the actual events involving Kim Novak in 1958. It was a treasure trove of secrets that Hollywood didn't want you to see, not just trinkets. On December 8, 1925, Samuel Davis Jr. was born in Harlem, New York City. His parents, Elvera Sanchez and Sammy Davis Sr., were both theater professionals. Sammy was thus born into a family that was involved in the entertainment industry. However, his story was not as simple as it seemed. His mother, Elvera, was Cuban. The family remained silent because of the American public's perception of Cuba at the time. At the time, disclosing such origins could have a negative impact on public support and record sales. Racism and the desire to conceal aspects of his identity, even as a newborn, influenced his life. Harlem, which was teeming with the vitality of the Harlem Renaissance, was his first scene. The remainder of his life was shaped by it. At the age of 2, Samuel was already performing with the Will Maston Trio. The group was led by Will Maston, a family friend, and his father. Most young children engaged in toy play. He performed on stages across the nation, singing and dancing. It cost him something, but he loved being in the center. He led a unique life. As other children went to school, he practiced his talent and learned how to enchant others. The constant touring had worn him out, but it had also strengthened him. It also made him realize how bigoted Americans are. He was offended by the whites-only placards since they made him feel different. Since he was a young boy, he had a great ambition to overcome barriers. When Samuel was just 3 years old, his life took a drastic turn. His parents divorced. His father took him in after his mother passed away, and he furthered his career in show business. For Sammy, Will Maston was more than simply a teacher. He was a father figure who made every effort to keep him safe. But one person could only keep them safe so long. Sammy saw the injustice that black artists faced, but he also knew how to respond to it with grace, skill, and unwavering dedication. Even as a newborn, he was different from other children. By now, he seemed to be an expert. He surprised people as he traveled from city to city. When Sammy was 7 years old, he starred in his first motion picture, Rufus Jones for President. He co-starred with Ethel Waters in a film that attempted to envision a black boy in the White House. The film has purpose in addition to being humorous. Sammy's charisma glowed on screen during a period when there weren't many black actors in Hollywood. His dancing and melodies won people over. The film hinted that Sammy was more than just an actor, he was a force to be reckoned. In late 1991, Matthias Horenik, then 28 years old, received a strange $365 bill for a storage unit he had never rented before. Someone had stolen his ID, so one self-storage in Burbank looked into it and discovered that the room had been rented using false information, so they called the police. When they opened the locker, they were shocked to see items that were important to Sammy Davis Jr., including a trumpet, an old record player, a jukebox with "The Candy Man" on it, clothes, documents, and photographs. 2 weeks after the auction, someone had rented that room in an attempt to conceal the items that were sold, and the police discovered that an Altovice employee had assisted in hiding the items, claiming the IRS wanted everything and he was trying to keep what was left. They paid cash using a stolen ID. If they had continued to pay, no one would have known, she added, but the IRS found out, and they took the things because they wanted to get more of the loan back. This hidden storage was just one more sad part of a story about ability, fame, and failure. It required sacrificing things to live on stage. In contrast to other children, Sammy did not attend school. He had no school bells, no chalkboards, and no seats. He picked up knowledge from the stages he owned, from individuals he encountered, from books he found, and while traveling. He learned languages and how to play an instrument on his own, something that no teacher could teach him. He was as eager to succeed as he was to learn. He demonstrated that being great doesn't need attending school. Drive, perseverance, and an insatiable curiosity are all you need. In 1943, things changed. When Sammy enlisted in the U.S. military, he was 18 years old, 5 feet 6 inches, and weighed 120 pounds. American Army. He left the stage, where he felt comfortable, for a much worse world. Although he was a member of one of the first groups to collaborate, the promise of unity was not fulfilled. Racism was rampant in the army. The first soldier he encountered called him a slur. The sobering reality that his skills were irrelevant in uniform hit him hard. He struggled to survive, and he had to contend with conflict and hatred nearly every day. The purpose of the army was to build men's strength. It caused Sammy to lose his innocence. It was insane the brutality he endured. At one point, he was captured by white soldiers who painted him white and ridiculed every aspect of him. On another occasion, they deceived him into drinking beer that had been tainted with urine. On some evenings, they peed on him. He shattered his nose 3 times. They further humiliated him by forcing him to perform and painting derogatory remarks on his forehead before shoving him onto the stage. It was intended to break him, and the cruelty never ceased. Troops hung him from a tree in the middle of the night. He stood there helpless, like so many others who had been tormented due to their race. The agony was severe despite the chill. Remember your place no matter where you go or what you do. The army did nothing to assist him, therefore he was not safe. His body and heart were marked by that night, which he would never forget. The situation worsened. He had to spend 3 days in the hospital after being severely beaten by a bunch of troops during one incident. The pounding was a penalty, not an error. However, nobody was forced to respond. The army, which was supposed to unite Americans, instead allowed hatred to spread. Sammy realized he had to rely on his own power to survive as he lay in that hospital bed. Because of the suffering, he went to horrible places. He thought about halting everything. The constant hostility and vitriol was really difficult for him. Something stopped him when he tried to go. He discovered his weapon, singing, dancing, and performing, when he joined the army's entertainment section. Even men who disliked him couldn't dispute it. He was strengthened by their applause. When Sammy Davis Jr. returned from the army in 1951, he was prepared to face the world. He wanted to battle for his position in show business after having fought for his nation. He got the opportunity at Sunset Boulevard's most thrilling bar, Ciro's. It was March 1951. Sammy performed with the Wilmaston Trio as Janice Page's opening act. It was a great night. However, following that year's Oscars, something spectacular did occur. Humphrey Bogart, Lauren Bacall, Cary Grant, Marilyn Monroe, and Judy Garland were among the Hollywood stars present. People were in awe of Sammy's performance, which instantly made him famous. The buzz persisted. Many reservations were received. In 1952, he appeared on Eddie Cantor's Colgate Comedy Hour and even secured a $20,000 ABC pilot. No black performer has ever done it. Sammy had already made it, but no one supported it. Because of Sierra Rose, he was the talk of the town. Tragic events occurred just 3 years later in 1954. On November 19, Sammy was traveling from Las Vegas to Los Angeles in his Cadillac. He was only 29. Divided in the U.S. Another vehicle backed into his lane on Route 66. He was struck in the left eye by the car's horn button during the collision. The harm was irreparable. He was hurried to community hospital by doctors, but they were unable to save his sight. He spent just 9 days there. He was supported by friends like Frank Sinatra. Show quotes were 3 times as high as they used to be. He wore a glass eye after first wearing an eye patch. A lot of people thought his life was over. He joked that he was a black Jew with one eye. However, 8 weeks later, he was back on stage at Ciro's, once again impressing Hollywood's top actors. Sammy's life was altered by that accident in another way. He converted to Judaism in 1960. While recovering, he read about the lengthy struggle of the Jews to survive. He received a mezuzah from his friend Eddie Cantor, who also discussed his Judaism with him. Sammy had a sense of belonging. "I've always thought like a Jewish person," he remarked. Despite the fact that many people ridiculed him, he believed that being Jewish and black made him better. He became a symbol of strength by advocating for human rights. Even as his fame increased, he had to cope with cruel racism. He might be the star of performances in Las Vegas in the 1950s, but he was not allowed to remain at the hotels where he performed. He was not allowed to eat in the restaurants or enter through the front doors. He refused to accept it. He requested modification. With the assistance of the Rat Pack, he stressed gaming. He was the first black artist to remain at the frontier, earning $25,000 per week at the Sands by the early 1960s. Finally, racial segregation in Las Vegas hotels ended in 1971. Sammy made the occasion possible. It wasn't just singing that Sammy excelled at. He self-taught himself to play the vibraphone, trumpet, drums, piano, and more. He was able to mimic sounds, dance, laugh, do impressions, and even perform gun stunts. His presentations were usually entertaining. Since no one else could handle everything, he became known as Mr. Show Business. By 1956, Sammy was the Broadway hit. On March 22, the film Mr. Wonderful was released. It was considered loud and good by this New York Times review, which was quite unusual for a black star at the time. However, Sammy's charisma made everyone want to sit down, and it was performed 383 times, earning back the $225,000 it cost. In addition, he included his bar act, so each show was unique. His father and uncle were on stage with him, and Chista Rivera, who was a child, was also a member of the group. When he wasn't performing, he had wild parties and made history on Broadway. He made even more history in 1964 with Golden Boy. He played a black wrestler who fell in love with a white woman on stage, and when he kissed her, people were upset. He was nominated for a Tony Award for his work, and he marched with Martin Luther King Jr. in Selma during this time. He risked everything for what he believed to be right, and people who saw his show had to deal with some difficult facts. Sammy continued after the stage. In 1958, he played the lead role in Anna Lucasta, which dealt with difficult subjects and featured an all-black cast. In 1959, he stole the show in Porgy and Bess with Sidney Poitier and Dorothy Dandridge. In 1960, he was in Ocean's 11, and in 1964, he was in Robin and the Seven Hoods with the Rat Pack. Sammy made it possible for black artists to work in Hollywood. He was on many shows, including The Tonight Show, The Ed Sullivan Show, and more. In 1966, he started the Sammy Davis Jr., an NBC show, and was one of the first black performers to host a network comedy show in prime time. He was joined by celebrities like Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. He did more interviews than anyone else, about 100 a week, to sell the show, and when he did well, it helped other black artists land TV jobs. Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. became friends in 1941. When Sammy was just 15 years old, he performed in Detroit with the Will Maston Trio. When Frank was 26 years old and on tour with Tommy Dorsey's band, Frank knew he was seeing something special. Frank found more ways to help Sammy over the next 10 years. He made sure that the Will Maston Trio played before him at the Capitol Theater in New York in 1947. That's when Sammy got a big break that changed his life for good. Frank didn't just let people in, he also defended Sammy when it was important. Because he was black, Sammy was not allowed to enter the Copacabana in New York in 1950. Frank was very angry. He told Sammy to come back the next night. Sammy was welcome this time. Frank didn't stop there. He made sure to walk in with Sammy, sit down with her, and turn down gigs at places that wouldn't treat her equally. Before Frank, black entertainers had to use different entrances and hotels. What he did was brave and risky. Frank helped Sammy again when he almost died in a car accident in 1954 and lost his left eye. He paid for his care at the hospital and brought Sammy to Palm Springs to get better. Frank didn't let him feel sorry for himself. He told Sammy that if she didn't get back on stage, she would lose everything. Sammy was back in front of crowds in just a few weeks. The way they were friends showed everyone what true love looked like, and it gave Sammy the courage to get close to people in Hollywood. The world saw that friendship on the big screen in 1960 when Ocean's 11 debuted on August 3. The film starred Frank, Dean Martin, Sammy, Joey Bishop, and Peter Lawford as World War II veterans who were pulling off a massive heist. Behind the scenes, the Rat Pack filmed scenes at night and performed live until dawn at the Sands and other clubs, with Sammy playing a key role as Josh Howard. The film made $5.5 million at the box office, which is about $55 million today. The final image of the Rat Pack passing a sign with their names on it became a famous picture. By the late 1950s, he was earning up to $25,000 a week in Las Vegas, but he was unable to stay in the hotels where he performed due to racism, so he had to stay on the West Side, many miles away. Despite this, Sammy persisted, participating in civil rights demonstrations and even purchasing a piece of the Tropicana. In 1971, Nevada passed a law that prohibited discrimination in hotels in part because of Sammy, and when he passed away in 1990, the main city of Nevada turned off its lights for a minute. The city that had previously turned him down now treated him like a king. He also gained notoriety in films after Ocean's 11. In 1962, he starred in Sergeants 3 with the Rat Pack, which earned $4.3 million. He even wore a hat that John Wayne had given him. In 1964, he played the lead role in Robin and the Seven Hoods, a mix of comedy, crime drama, and music, and he did well with Frank, Dean, and Bing Crosby. These films were entertaining, but they also demonstrated that Sammy was a star in his own right. However, it wasn't all about fame for Sammy. In 1957, he fell in love with Kim Novak, a well-known figure in Hollywood, and they became friends on The Steve Allen Show. Before long, they were spending holidays together and meeting each other's families, but dating someone of a different race was risky at the time, as only 4% of Americans agreed with them, and people were still upset over Emmett Till's murder. The two of them attempted to conceal their relationship. Sammy hid in cars under blankets. They met at a beach house in Malibu, and in January 1958, a gossip magazine claimed they were engaged. The news spread quickly, and gangsters connected to Columbia Pictures took Sammy hostage, telling him to break up with Kim or risk losing his remaining eye, or worse. Mafia boss Sam Giancana claimed he couldn't protect Sammy in Hollywood, so he broke up with her on January 7, 1958, because she was afraid. He didn't want to, but he had to. A few days later, on January 10, he married the black singer Lorraine White, a lie to appease the public and the media. She got up to $25,000 from him. He was so upset that night that he tried to choke her. After some time, his helper found him with a gun by himself. In April, they broke up. Sammy had lost almost everything because of his relationship with Kim. It showed how risky it was to break the rules about race in the 1950s. Sammy Davis Jr.'s marriage to Mae Britt in 1960 was more than just two people getting married. It was a direct challenge to one of the worst social norms in the United States. At that time, 31 states did not allow marriage between people of different races. In 1958, Gallup found that only 4% of Americans agreed with marriages between black and white people. They were going to get married at Temple Israel of Hollywood, but bomb threats and other violent warnings made them change their minds and have the wedding at Sammy's house in the Hollywood Hills. In front of them as witnesses were Frank Sinatra and Peter Lawford. Before the wedding, both Sammy and Mae became Jews. This made them one of the few famous black-Jewish mixed-race couples. They paid a high price for being brave. They had swastikas on their property. Britt lost her job at 20th Century Fox. Davis was denied entry to President Kennedy's inauguration in 1961 because of the person he chose to love, and after the birth of their daughter Tracy, they took in two boys, Mark and Jeff. The world might not be nice outside that bubble, so Sammy and Mae tried to keep their children safe by matching them with people who would judge them on their abilities rather than their race, but after the fact, Tracy said she occasionally felt safe, but she was shocked by the racism she saw around other people. Studios believed that no one would want to see a white actress married to a black man, so Mae's career was over, and Sammy continued to be involved in his children's lives even after their divorce. He paid for his son's bar mitzvah and helped them learn about Judaism. Britt filed for divorce in 1968 after 8 years of marriage, citing terrible brutality and mental pain. Sammy's relationship with singer Lola Falana was the tipping point, but they had other issues as well. The stress of public hatred and his endless tours left little time for family, and after the breakup, his entire world fell apart, and he turned to drugs and alcohol. His house in Beverly Hills became a wild party place where famous people drank and used drugs. He shone on stage, and when he wasn't on stage, he was frequently intoxicated, high, and out of control. In 1970, he married dancer Elvera Gore, who was in charge. Their son Manny was born in 1989, 1 year before Sammy passed away. Elvera helped him feel more stable, but their lives were never quiet. Their house was known for having wild parties. There were rumors of orgies and switching wives. Elvera was there for Sammy through it all as he fought addiction and then throat cancer. She owed more than $7 million in taxes after he died in 1990. They lost their house and most of their things. She had a drinking problem and was poor, which was a sad change from how glamorous they used to be. And yet, she worked hard to keep Sammy's memory alive by planning memorials and doing good deeds. Sammy lost all of his money because he was addicted to gaming. There were times when he made as much as $185,000 a night, which added up to about $50 million. However, he died owing the IRS more than $7 million. He could lose $40,000 at the tables in one night. Sinatra's bills were often forgiven, but Sammy had to pay for what he lost. It got worse for him when he made bad business deals and used shady tax loopholes. His kindness also played a role. He helped a lot of people and spent a lot more than he had. He first and only time made it to the top of the charts in June 1972. His version of The Candy Man made it to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It sold more than 2 million copies and was certified gold. In a strange twist, Sammy used to dislike the song, but its catchy tune and his charm made a whole new group of people love it. I've Got to Be Me became his song. The song, which came out in 1968, was about living fully and staying true, which spoke to Sammy's search for who she was. He had to deal with racism and religious intolerance, and he lost his left eye in a car accident in 1954, but he never let these things break him. He would often end shows with this song, which made each show a statement of resistance and hope. Sin City became his kingdom. He was making up to $25,000 a week there by the late 1960s. To help change the city's racist ways, he pushed for fair treatment. His shows were amazing, with a mix of dance, comedy, impressions, and songs. His fame made Las Vegas grow into the entertainment capital it is today. People will always remember him because his face is on casino walls and signs. For example, Sammy broke rules on TV. He lit up shows like The Tonight Show and The Ed Sullivan Show in the 1960s and 1970s. His show in 1966 was one of the first network comedy shows with a black star as the host. He was great at impersonating other people, singing, dancing, and making jokes. Millions of people loved him. But the bad parts of his life were always there. During the years he spent studying the occult, his drug and alcohol use got worse. Friends talked about nights of drinking too much, using drugs, and going crazy. Sammy himself said he wanted to do everything, but it was too much for him. Because of his drug use and betrayal, his marriage to May was already over. Sometimes he wouldn't come back and would end a show after just one song. In the end, he gave up cocaine, but his fight with alcohol stayed with him. It got harder for him to control his demons as he did more and more evil things. During those years, it looked like the great Mr. Show Business might lose everything. Fans from every corner of the world were thrilled when Sammy chose to work with Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin again in 1987. After years of dreaming, the farewell tour was finally happening. Initially dubbed the International Farewell Tour, it was dubbed the ultimate event after Liza Minnelli joined in. The Rat Pack had never been on a trip like this before, and the first show took place at the Oakland Coliseum on March 13, 1988. It was magical at first, but soon cracks appeared when the 70-year-old Dean Martin quit after just 5 shows, citing a kidney problem. Sinatra and Davis persisted, and after Minnelli joined, the tour continued. They were done with the U.S. In May 1989, the tour ended, and in August 1989, the real battle started. Sammy lost his taste buds, and his throat hurt all the time. The doctors told him that he had throat cancer, and after years of smoking up to 4 packs a day, it caught up with him. To save his life, he could have surgery to remove his voice box, or he could try radiation to continue singing. Sammy picked his voice, and he had to go through 8 very difficult weeks of treatment. At first, it seemed to be effective, the growth subsided, and he even returned to the stage a few times. But by early 1990, the cancer returned and spread so rapidly that surgery was no longer an option. Samuel Davis Jr. passed away on May 16, 1990, at the age of 64. He gave the world a gift, but his voice faded, his health deteriorated, and eventually he passed away. The truth about Sammy's wealth was revealed when he passed away at his Beverly Hills home. He owed more than $5 million in taxes, despite having made a lot of money over the previous 60 years, and that debt had grown to $7 million, or roughly $13 million today, due to fees and interest. He had about $4 million in his will, but the IRS took it all. His wife Elvera had to fix everything, and she was now included in the bill because she co-signed their tax returns. She had to get $2 for their 11,000 square foot house. 7% million, but the majority of that was used to pay the house. Sammy still owed $118,000 on a shopping center mortgage, $2,000 on tuxedos, and $3,500 on food. Elvera fought in court for many years, and by 1997, she had made peace with the IRS, but she lost almost everything along the way. In September 1991, more than 1,800 people gathered in Los Angeles to buy parts of Sammy's life, and more than 500 of his belongings were put up for sale. His gold record for the Candyman cost $4,275, and his tap shoes brought in $11,000, and people bought his hats, cards, gifts, and walking sticks. The proceeds from the sale brought in $439,000, which is not even close to paying off that $7 million tax bill. Elvera sobbed as she saw the things her husband had given her go.